This is episode number 81 of Hebrews in Exile with our honorable teacher, Robert B. Holman Jr. and Sean Appleton. And we had the privilege and honor to be joined by none other than Ambassador Elekha Stagg and the New Life family in Palm Springs, California, to discuss their journey in being Hebraic and just to be around like-minded individuals who have a love and affection for Yahweh or Yahweh. So, without any further ado, let's jump into the discussion. Hebrews in Exile, you know what we do. Let's go!
You're a creation. You make everything right.
This is Rabbi Robert B. Holman Jr. and
Sean Appleton.
And this is
Hebrews in Exile.
You know, Sean, I always start off with this conversation, Sean.
Yeah. We tend to gravitate towards that a lot.
Do you all know Sean? We are here in Palm Springs, California, with our congregation down here.
And it's hot.
Yeah, and this is the Shabbat.
Yeah.
And we've had an awesome opportunity to share with this congregation of people here, what their rabbi here refers to as the temple.
The temple, okay.
And it's been great just being down here and seeing them. I don't know, man. What?
Like I said, I mean, I was really elated to know that we had booked this time to come down here to be amongst people that are part of the kingdom of Israel, a part of the dynasty, the empire, and just to be able to share and come on one accord to know that, there are remnants of Hebrews in different pockets of even the United States that prescribe to the full teaching in its pure organic form, the best way we know how, because we always continue to say it's about progress, not perfection. And I'm just elated to be with this group. This is awesome. New life. New life.
Yeah. And not only that, but to allow the people who listen to our podcast every week to know that there are communities like us, but you got to find us.
Yeah.
We're not sticking out there like you got to find us. The pureness. And New Life here in Palm Springs is a pure Hebraic community, not like being accosted on the streets by the purple and gold people who don't have a clue. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you now, they don't have a clue. But we teach the pureness of the Torah of Moshe that the Most High gave to him to this opulent nation.
Right.
You talk today about this opulent nation that we are, and it's unique to understand in the midst of even this diaspora how great we are.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
How great we are. And, just to get our people who are gravitating to the Hebraic way of life to understand that, you have to stand tall. Mm-hmm. You have to square your shoulders, and you have to recognize that you're part of the greatest people on the face of the globe.
Oh,
there is nobody like you. There is nobody who compare to you. Mm-hmm. And there is no nation that has the supreme power of the Creator.
Right.
That stands next to you on your side to uphold you.
Right.
And don't mess with his children.
I'm going to tell you what. That's right, because you might find yourself in a hole somewhere.
Don't
looking up at dirt. Go ahead.
Because the Most High said that his eyes are always upon Israel.
That's right. I mean, I think it's very key to understand that when you have a pride in yourself and a pride in a community of people that stand for what we stand for. What I equate it to is like, when you see, and this I equate, back up in California, California, like we're not all from California, in Sacramento, we got those evangelicals that are out there, and what they like to do is they put the American flag in the back of the pickup truck, and they had the flags all over the vehicles and whatnot. And what is that? That is showing patriotism. It's not showing that, like for most of Hebrew Israel, where it's a religion, it's an issue. If you look to that, and you look to that particular aspect and parallel I'm trying to draw here, which is their patriotism is in the pride of their country and who they are. Yeah. And we need to have that same type of pride in ourselves. But again, we don't know that because we've been taught a doctrine that says the pride that you're supposed to have has been weak, is ineffective, and it's been done away with. And it serves you no purpose. So look to this dude who looked like he just got off of his surfboard, hair just flowing, glitter coming all off of him and everything, an aura behind him, and follow this guy. I don't know of I'm over here teaching again. I don't know any group of people, and I think I said this on the last podcast, which is when you look at the melanated man, even if we were to look and say that Jesus is God and he's not, at least have enough pride in yourself to gravitate to your ethnicity as it's related to text. When you look at Asians, I said this before, their God looks like them.
Yeah.
When you look at Indians and those people that are over in the Middle East, their God looks like them.
Yes.
Jesus looks like them. Non-melanated people. So even if there was a manifestation of the Most High in the flesh in the earth, which we know that the Most High is a power, doesn't manifest himself that way. But if he was, how come he don't look like you?
Exactly.
You should want to go at least gravitate in that vein. And that should be your gateway to understand. Look at these people that are in text. When I look at Moshe and I look at who he married an Ethiopian woman. She was from the land of Cush. She was a black woman.
Yeah.
When you look at individuals like, okay, let's take a look at our ancestors that came out of Mitzrayim. They came off the north coast of Africa. I don't know if I look at the indigenous people that are there, that have come out of Egypt, they don't look like they came off some island off the coast of Sweden. So they look like you and I. When you read about people in the book of Samuel, like our great judge and rescuer, Samson.
Yeah.
They sent a woman after him, and he finally, after he was getting nagged and nagged and nagged and nagged and nagged and nagged and nagged, he finally gave up what the source of power was, which was, you cut off my connection to the Most High because I'm a Nazir. I'm following the commandments of the Nazir, and it made him weak. But what did he have?
Locks.
He had locks. Them things that y'all wear in y'all hair are what your ancestors used to wear.
Yeah.
So how do you sit there and tell me that this non-melanated group of people that are out here are supposed to represent me?
Now, that's interesting that you said that.
All right.
Because in this exiled world that we live in, the non-melanated people don't want us to wear our hair like our ancestors wear our hair.
That's right. That's right.
They're trying to stop us from doing what gives us authority and power, reconnection to who we are.
That's right.
Because they still want us to be like them.
Right.
And we're trying to break away from being like them.
But see, what does this all come back to?
It all comes back to our origin.
It comes back to our origin, and it comes back to an issue of you folk need to get yourself back into text and learn these mitzvots. Y'all letting these charlatans come and let y'all go run y'all amok, and y'all just letting it happen. And then you wondering why I'm got my hands up. I can't breathe.
Yeah.
In the street, getting a shotgun stuck down your two front teeth.
Yeah.
Don't complain when the Most High put his foot on your neck, trying to get you to turn back. I just need to stop. You looking over here like, boy, if you don't shut up.
Yeah, because you know,
we got to get somewhere.
We got to get somewhere. You know, you and I will get started, and
they'll be like, you know what?
And what we have for this segment will never happen.
Right.
So we need, but you know, the interesting thing about all this is to recognize that we are people of the Most High. So here I am in Palm Springs, California. I've got Kohanim Elekha Stagg here with me, and we're going to talk. Hey, Konin.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat shalom to you. Glad to be with you today, man. Down here in your hot city, man. It's 100 and what today? It was 106 yesterday.
105.
My goodness, my goodness. Today. 105 today. I'm so glad to be sitting here at your desk.
I mean, I'm glad to have you here with us today.
Yeah. Tell me, man. Talk to me. What's up?
Talk to you.
What's up?
I feel blessed. As I said earlier, it's always a blessing to be in your presence. I love the company. I love the relationship, because these types of relationships is one that I think everyone should cherish. We haven't had any like this. I haven't had a relationship like this. It reminds me of over across the street, when we used to talk to our elders and they wanted us to be serious. But when we got serious, they said we was getting too deep.
Yeah. And they didn't want to talk about that.
And when we got too deep, they didn't want to explain what the text was really saying. They called it a gray area.
That's because they couldn't.
Right. And that's the reason why I love this, because you have taught me and you have told me the truth, and it blesses me to be able to stand in what I know now, what I believe, and who I believe I am. So I consider it a blessing every time I'm in your presence, in your company.
Say, man, tell me something.
Yes, sir.
How was the transition for you? When you first, we got a lot of people that are listening that they're struggling with transition out of Christianity to this Hebraic way. How was the transition for you?
The transition was hard. Coming out of apostolicity, holiness, Jesus only.
Yeah.
And so, my situation, it actually took me really about 15 years or so, because I love to read. And when I started doing research, I started recognizing that there was something different about what I was being taught, the doctrine that I was given. And so as I begin to read and do my research, Sean, you and Sean were talking about the different elements of religion and how the different cultures have their deities that look like them. I had a problem because being in apostolicity, you had what I knew was there was three groups. You had the PAW, you had the UPC. So PAW, the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World, you had the United Pentecostal Church, and then you had the Spanish Apostolics. Okay. Now, because of the way that I did things, I like to read, and I would talk about what we call the Old Testament. But a lot of people were uncomfortable with that because they weren't familiar with it. And so they would always ask me, how do you know this? I said, because I read. But here was the big problem. The big problem is they didn't ask me that question with regard to how I got the information. They asked me that question because they said I was black. How could I know this?
Wow.
And it kind of disturbed me because I figured, what did they tell us? There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither bond nor free. We are all one in Christ Jesus.
Wow. And we found out that ain't true.
I realized it was just like Jay-Z said. And I won't repeat it on the podcast, but y'all look up his song. Okay. I realized that it didn't matter how well I could preach or teach because I was still who they said I was. That was a problem for me. It hurt because I felt like that if I embraced their Jesus, then I should be okay. Right.
Yeah.
And the mentality is there's levels to this thing. Okay. And the more you embrace our way, you become more like us. That's what they present to you. Okay. Over the pulpit, but behind closed doors, it's not like that at all.
Right.
And so I was having a problem with that transition. So I started looking up the different religious figures, and I noticed that, the first Jesus was black. That's what I noticed. That the first Jesus who they presented was black.
Well, now, if the first Jesus you saw was black, and we grew up with pictures of the white Jesus on our wall, I'm gonna tell you a fact. Okay, white folks ain't serving no black Jesus.
No.
So then there must be two Jesuses out there.
Okay. There must be.
One's white,
one's black,
and one's black.
And it all depends on you. And the majority of
so now
even.
we got to ask a question.
Uh-huh.
Which one is you all serving?
Which one is you all serving? Because most of our ethnic groups, our people, ain't serving a black one either.
My point exactly. That's the point we want to make. Yeah.
Right.
Because we all grew up with Michelangelo's
right
brother or whoever he was. That he
was
painted.
Simon Borgia.
Yeah, who he painted and called.
Yeah.
And presented him to us as being, this is your Jesus.
Right.
And you know, that's as idolatrous as it wants to be.
Because I'm gonna tell you what, while y'all was there talking, is I got to jump in on this one because it does something else to our people as well. If you notice something, is that because we have grown up with this idea and this image of a deity being white. What we do as African Americans is we deify that race of people. So when you look at a white person, you're looking at somebody, because I've had white people come up to me and say, well, why do you guys have to get up there all the time and talk about how black this group of people is? Because when I go to the grocery store and I go to the end of the aisle, you got your white Jesus on the cover of Time Life magazine. The image of him is everywhere. And so what happens to our people is we tend to deify what we see. We start deifying white people, which is, it's taken away from where the truth actually is. I'm not saying anything against anybody who's non-melanated, but you have to get back to the fact of the subliminal undertones that are put and nested within our culture that hold us back. We, as Hebrews, we can't even leave Christianity because of the fact that some white man hasn't co-signed for it yet. That's a problem. If I leave, then I gotta, did they say it was okay? Does their history say that it was okay? Did their history say that it was a black man? You always looking for them for the answer instead of within our culture. So having that cathartic, revelation about our connection to our people is tantamount to trying to understand who we are. I'm not going to say no more. Get back in this microphone.
You know what I say? It's kind of difficult sometimes to deal with, because just hearing that, and even our community will say that it's racist, and he sounds racist.
Yeah.
But when you look at it scientifically, you already know who the first man was. And scientifically, they have proven that. Scientifically. It's amazing because you were talking about the different cultures in the Middle East that have their gods and their prophets after themselves. I just watched a documentary about a month or so ago that says that the Buddha was changed. His features were changed from melanated, and I like to say melanated. I really don't like to be associated with a color, but I like to say melanated. But the features of the Buddha was changed from melanated to more Europeanized features. Still got it. Right. At the big lips and the wide nose, and things of that nature. My thing is, let me get back on the subject here. What happened with me is I was feeling inferior because of what I had been taught in Christianity. Because I was feeling inferior, I began to pray. I had begun to pray. And as I began to pray, the Most High began to lead me in scriptures. He also began to cause me to build like a separation between what people were saying, okay, and what he was trying to get me to. And so as I began to do more and more research, I began to find that there were fallacies and things that we had been taught. And I think the purpose of my direction and going in the direction that I was going in, it was only because the Most High wanted to get my attention. I think about the scripture in Jeremiah that says the reason why that we are hearing what we are hearing today is because the Most High allowed us to hear it. Okay. Mainly because we have tuned or attuned our ears to the Most High's word.
Yeah.
Okay. We have an innate, not just a desire, but we have something innate within us that says that, the scriptures that were written originally were written to our ancestors. And because they were written to our ancestors, the Most High said that if you remember them, I will remember you. So it was an awakening for me. It was still hard for me to transition to because most of my family is apostolic. My wife, apostolic. So when I began to transition, I had to think about how could I present this to her. I wasn't thinking about everybody else, but I knew how she was raised. Okay. I knew how I married into her family, who was 6 generations. I think my children are 6 generations, Pentecostal. Okay. And so I had all types of things going on in my head about breaking tradition, you know, you crazy, you a sinner, you all these things. But I started looking into the scriptures, the history of the word. There was a minister that helped me out unbeknownst to him. He gave me dictionaries on New Testament theology. And as I began to study those books on the dictionaries on New Testament theology, they didn't direct me towards anything Hebrew. So once I began to dissect that, I learned that there was a further problem that I had to research, because everything in the dictionaries of New Testament theology led me to Greek mythology and Egyptology.
Well, now say it again. You know, it's interesting to understand that nothing in that book across the street are at the behest of the Most High. Y'all got to hear me now. And you got to hear me. You got to hear me. Nothing in that book across the street has the blessing of the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The text says, I am not a human that I should lie or change my mind.
All right.
So when you finally get to a point of deducing what's in that mess, you find out that it's a lie. And the Most High is not associated with a lie. I need you all to hear me now. I really need you to hear me. The Elohim, listen, let me put it in a context that if you're listening to this for the first time, you can understand. Because I don't use the term God. God is associated with things that are heathen. So I don't use the word God. But I'm going to do it in this context so that you can hear me. The God that you love, if that God is the creator of all things, and you believe that he created you, that God is not a liar. And that Greek document across the street is filled with lies. And just because you don't have anybody to teach you and you don't have anybody to show you, it doesn't negate the fact that it's a lie. The hardest thing to dismiss yourself from is a lie that you have heard all your life and somebody comes along and tells you something different, but you've heard this all your life. And it's difficult for you to transition out of that into truth.
Right.
Now, you've just heard Kohanim Elekha tell you from Greek studies, from books, it's a lie.
Right. And most of, well, I can't even say most of that. When we began, after I was able to, and here's how I did it, Rabbi, because I was pastoring, ministering and teaching.
I was too.
And so what I did was I learned to season.
To what?
I learned how to season.
Okay.
I gave a little bit here and a little bit there.
Okay.
Because I wanted to see how the people would respond.
Yeah. That was wise.
One of the last preacher, who was here, he told me, when you preaching, he says, close the door. I said, why is that? He said, because we were looking out one day and he says, if you open that door, he says that somebody sitting across there with a gun got a clear shot to who's ever in the pulpit. and so I, that didn't bother me. What bothered me is the break from tradition.
Yeah.
Because there are some zealots out there.
Yeah.
That will take it upon themselves, to do you bodily harm.
Yeah. In light of that, yesterday, I'm flying up on the plane. I got this young lady sitting next to me. She's asking me all these questions. And, I can't hear, so I don't know how loud I'm talking. But I'm noticing that the two gentlemen across the aisle are doing like this.
He looking on, listening up.
They bending back, looking, and one of them doing that one and going. He looked at me, they gave me that look. I said, oh, they must be hearing what I said. Particularly, I said something about, I said, Christianity is the root seed of Catholicism. And if the seed is corrupt, right, the root is corrupt. And I don't care if you call yourself Christian, non-denominational. I don't care what denomination you associate, you're part of that corrupt tree.
Still come out of Catholicism.
Saying, well, Catholicism is corrupt. Gentleman looked back, looked at me, gave me one of them funny looks. And I'm saying to myself, I must be talking loud. Then my spirit said, what you say, Sean? What you say, Sean? Shout, speak loud. He said, speak loud and spare not. So I said, well, heck with them. They need to hear this.
Right.
Your mess is a mess.
Right.
And and they're looking at me and I'm talking to this woman who to them looks white. And finally she says to me, she says, well, she looks at her skin. She says, well, I'm not all that white. And so I said to her, I says, well, don't worry about it. I said, Hebrew Israel has a problem. Is that a problem all the time? I said, we will procreate with the nations. I says, that's what makes the prophecy that the Most High gave to Father Abraham, that we be as great as the stars of the sky and the sand of the sea.
All right.
Our exile is to bring procreation, connect Israel to the nation. So we procreate. I said, don't be surprised. You probably got some Hebrew in you.
All right.
I said, and the fact that you're talking to me this way says to me that you probably have some Hebrew in you. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right. Yeah. That's a blessing right there. Just thinking about that, you never know who you're talking to. That's why it's important for you to stand sure on, well, not necessarily stand sure, just to be confident and not worry about what people are thinking.
Yeah.
And so in my research, I begin to learn these things about the Greeks and the Romans. And I track my steps back. And as I said, the dictionary on New Testament theology did not point me towards anything Hebrew. The problem with that is one, we were taught that the foundation was Hebrew.
Yeah.
Yet in our churches, we didn't talk about anything Hebrew.
Yeah, I mean, how you gonna quote and say all scripture is Yah breathed and valuable for right living and correcting in truth, but yet you don't follow anything that's there.
Right. You don't follow the foundation. How do you follow the foundation? You go back to the foundation.
Yeah.
How do you get truth? You go back to the foundation. Okay. You going to McDonald's or McDowell's? McDonald's. See, McDonald's got the Big Mac. We got the Big Mick. You copycatter. Yeah. And that's what they have done. But you know, I've learned when I began to season, this way, people started listening and they started hearing. The problem is, as Sean says, speak loud and spare not.
Yeah.
When you begin to speak loud and with confidence, you begin to, how do you say it? What people have is a fear of accepting what truth is, because there's so many, the masses around have told us for so long that we can't follow what they call Old Testament. Okay. You can't follow Torah. It's been done away with.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that was the problem that I was having, but I began to do my research. I began to put it out here and there to see who was listening so I could know what direction to go in. Okay. And the Most High was leading me all along, yet I had no idea. And in fact, when we got here, before we got here, I was praying, and I'm one, that likes to fast. And so I was fasting, and the Most High began to speak to me. And he says, tell the people it's time to come back home. And I says, what? He says, tell the people. Now, mind you, I was not here at this building.
Yeah.
I was in a warehouse, 800, probably 600 square foot warehouse in Palm Springs. The Most High. Here's what he told me exactly. Tell the people to come home and issue a period of rest. I didn't even know what rest was. Shabbat. I didn't know it. And so I started calling up different ones. Most High told me to tell you to come back home.
Listen to the prophetic words.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the prophetic words in Devarim chapter 28, closing stanza. Mm-hmm. It is from this place that I have exiled you, that you will search for me and you will find me.
Yes.
It is from this place, this exiled place, these exiled nations that I have put you in. It is from this place that you will search for me and you will find me.
Right.
I'm listening to what you said, and that's resonating in my mind. It's time to come home. It's time to get back to the state that I made for you, even in this exile, a state of rest. What rest? The Shabbat.
The
Sabbath.
Shabbat.
Man, that's awesome.
Right.
That's awesome.
And so as I begin to call different ones, and you know, people are visual. And so as I'm calling different ones and they see the location that we're in a 600 square foot building, they're thinking that this can't be the place. Why? Because they have this building here that was so big. Okay. But we got a call about 4 months later, 4 or 5 months later, saying that the keys are yours. Come get them. And their words were, my season is up.
Wow.
My time is up.
Come
on, Rabbi. Come on, Rabbi.
See, I get these words from these Christians all the time.
Come on.
Your season, I heard God speak and say that your season is up. He's going to do a new thing in your life. You're going to have a new season. Well, see now.
Shabbat.
There it is. Whoop, whoop, there it is. Now, that's the season.
Yes.
That's the change.
Yes. And that was the call that was made to me, and I was confused. One thing I knew that I had been praying, and I knew that the Most High was speaking to me and told me that it was time to transition. When I got here, I told the people, I says, can I say a word? I had a ceremony like Daiwi. He didn't have a public service, right? And so, I was told that everybody was just to gather on that last Sunday, and that would be it. And so the leader here had an opportunity to preach the message, and I don't even remember the entire message, but it was with the effort of handing over the keys. And so I said, "Can I say a few words?" And he said, "Well, sure." And I says, "Okay." I got up. I says, "I don't even know if I can preach in this church." And everybody looked at me. Is he the right man for the job? And I'm saying it's not that I can't preach, because I have messages. I got messages set aside. I said, it's what does the Most High want me to say? Because it's not about what my plan is. It's about the Most High's plan. And when I got here, I knew that he had brought us back for a reason. And so when he brought us back, I told the people what the Most High had told me 6 months earlier, that he said it's time to come back home and to issue a period of rest. Well, we got the keys the following week. I didn't preach. I said, we're going to pray. And I said, what we're going to do is we're going to have a prayer revival until the Most High says it's enough. We had a 4-month-long prayer revival here. And I remember one Sunday, and I still remember it vividly because everybody was afraid. While I was preaching and teaching, I said, the Most High is about to do something right now. And the doors opened up. And my deacon, he's looking around because normally he's by the door because he's watching. He says, "You want me to close the doors now?" I said, "No, don't worry about it. Don't close the doors. Don't close the doors." But go ahead.
We're talking about actual. We're talking about actual doors.
We're talking about actual doors.
We're not talking about nothing spiritual here. We're talking about actual doors to the building that we're sitting in right now.
We're talking about actual doors, and we're talking about a spiritual manifestation because there was a spiritual situation that was going on here.
Okay.
Because of idol worship.
But we're talking about literal doors.
Literal doors opening up. Literal doors opening up.
Wow.
And from that point forward, things begin to change. I knew that I was able to speak the Most High's word. One thing I've always done is I told the congregation that I didn't want to be like anybody else. I don't want to be like any other preacher that you guys have sat under. I want to be able to do what the Most High told me to do.
Wait. You don't want to huff and puff?
I wanted the people to understand.
Wait. You don't want to huff and puff and snort and wipe your brow and
I've done it.
Can I get some help? Is there anybody in here that can help me? Can you hear what I'm? You
With
mean
my hand behind my ear? I've done it.
You mean you didn't want to do none of that? You didn't want to do none of that.
I'm not gonna say I didn't want to do that.
I'm gonna tell you something. This is funny. I have watched the series on Netflix.
Here we go.
Greenleaf. And after I heard May's last message about new beginning, In the back of my mind, I said to myself, you know what? Torah will preach.
Right.
I can get up and take Torah and you need to follow the commandments of the Most High and let me tell you what they are, and that was already in my mind.
Right.
And I said to myself, if I go in the first tabernacle doing that, but they're going to look at me like I have lost my mind. It entered my mind for a minute.
Yes, sir.
And you know why? And you know why? You know why it entered my mind for a minute? Because I said to myself, this is the kind of tomfoolishness that our people gravitate to.
We're entertainers.
I could do this, and I can entertain you, and we can once again pack the building.
Right, right.
I could get a choir.
Mm-hmm.
And we could get the dancing robes again and get the show going.
Right.
And take Torah to that thing. Mm. And in the back of my mind, the Most High said to me, don't you corrupt Torah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't you corrupt Torah.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's funny that you say that. But I mean, I was there for a minute. I go, no, sit your behind back down and do what I told you to do.
Right. Now, I won't say that I didn't want to preach.
I know.
Because you know how we get. We get excited.
I know.
But what I will say is this. I realized that I couldn't preach doctrine.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And the main reason why, because in my conversations with leaders, bishops, apostles, they could not tell me what they called the hard things. They couldn't explain what the hard things were, and they would escape the conversation by saying, that's too hard for you.
Wait, too hard for you?
That's too hard for you. Well, they meant it in a general sense.
No, I understand. I understand how they meant it. But the problem being is that because they are totally Greeked, mm-hmm. you cannot explain the hard things that are in our text mm-hmm. with a Greek mind.
You can't do it.
That's the reason why in Christianity, mm-hmm. you're not going to hear the things that you hear over this podcast.
Right.
You're not going to hear the kind of things that you hear on our YouTube channel because they don't have the wherewithal or the mindset to escape the prison that has them locked up, mm-hmm. which is Eurocentric Greek theology,
right.
which is the doctrine of our slave masters, mm-hmm. which the Most High said to Israel, I did not bring you out of Mitzrayim mm-hmm. for you to be slaves.
Right. Exactly.
You are free people.
Exactly.
And once we return to Torah, we recognize how free we really are.
Right. And that's in a nutshell, that's where I was, because all my life, I've actually dealt with this inferiority. Mm. I've dealt with it, with people looking at me, looking down on me.
And you see, the difference between the two of us mm-hmm. is to this very day, mm-hmm. I am 5'5" mm-hmm. inches tall.
Right. And most people listening to me on the podcast probably think I'm 6'4", so we'll just go with it.
And so they look at me as a little man. I've had people come into the congregation because they see this little short black man. They think I don't know nothing.
Right.
But I have always been of the constitution mm-hmm. that I have never, ever cared about what anybody thought about Robert B. Holman Jr.
Okay. I get you. That's good.
And you know what? Uh-huh. And since I've come this way, now I really don't care.
Right. That's good.
Because I'm a servant of the Most High El.
Right.
And my job is to open my mouth and say to his people what his people need to hear, whether or not they want to hear it or not.
Right. Now, with that being said, there's a few themes out there across the street. One of them is a broken vessel. Okay. And they give us this mentality of a broken vessel.
Yeah, you're broken.
Right. That you're broken. Okay. And the Most High will use you as a broken vessel. Okay. However, the intent behind that is to get you to think that you can be no more than that. You can be used like Balaam's donkey.
Balaam's donkey,
Okay. That's the mentality that they give us. That's the mentality that they give us. And so I dealt with this. Most of the times when I encounter people, they always size me up. They always want to size me up. What are you? I worked with a guy for years at a cell phone company, and he was a white guy, and I'm pretty good with figuring out what ethnic groups people are from. And I'll tell them, talk to them if I listen to their voice, you know, their vernacular, how is it, the way they speak, their accents. I'm pretty good with it. I watched a lot of TV. But after I worked with him for 5 years, when he was about to quit, he asked me, "What are you?" And I said, "Huh?" He said, "Where are you from?" He says, "You're not white." He said, "But you ain't black either. What are you?" And that, it began to confuse me, but it also brought me into reality about what people are thinking. And I begin to think about how, this word is not bad, but how ignorant people are. And mainly because of they don't take the time or the consideration to do research and to even think about, you know, that where people come from. And because of the way our minds have been trained, we stay along those lines. And the same thing with doctrine. That is the reason why I did not want to be like someone else, the former preachers and teachers who were always preaching and teaching doctrine. The main reason why is because they could not tell us where their doctrine came from. And when you did tell them about it, they just said, "Well, I just believe." When you tell them about where their doctrine came from, when you gave them the roots of it, they just told you that I just believe. I just believe. And so that was a part of my transition. But I'm here now, and so we had been doing different types of research for a while, trying to get to this, when we actually found you by accident on YouTube. And in fact, it was my sister over in Maryland, D.C. She says, "Leka," she said, "I found some videos online. They saying we Hebrews, and guess what? The rabbi used to be PAW." I said, "What you say?" "I got to check him out." Because I had reached out to different ones. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. I reached out to some Hebrew Israelites. I reached out to some brothers who do Moors, who are Moors, Muslims. And I like talking to people to find out where they're from. You were the only one who responded.
And there's a reason for that.
And there's a reason for it.
Because the Most High knows who to connect his people with so that they can grow and know. My daddy has a motto he used to say, "It's a poor dog who won't wag his own tail."
Mm-hmm.
And I am elated that my quest from the Most High was to teach his people truth.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought me to that truth so that I can teach his people truth, so that I can meet you, so that you could embrace truth and share it with the people that you know as we expand further into this way of life. Because our task is to bring truth to the opulent nation of Hebrew Israel so that they can wake up, so we can get our heads together and get the heck up out of here.
I mean.
Thank you, Elekha.
Yes.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. You got a sister in the house that's gravitated to it. What's her name?
I do.
LaVon?
Yes.
Well, I need to hear from LaVon.
All right.
Can I bring LaVon up?
Go ahead.
Come on, LaVon. I need to hear from LaVon. But thank you, man. I mean, I think our people need to understand how difficult this transition from where we are to where we're going really, really, really is. And, it's great to be able to share your testimony with other individuals out there that are going through the same hardness of the transition of changing from Christianity to the Hebraic way. Now, the interesting thing about this is that transitioning to the Hebraic way is not being messianic in the terminology that's being used today. Don't get it twisted. I am thoroughly messianic, but I'm messianic into a period of time in which that the Messiah is going to show up. And it's not this 6th day. It's the 7th day that belongs to the Most High, when we will all be back in the land. And our King David will be king reigning forever. And the Moshiach, who is King David, whom the Most High said, King David will be my Moshiach, Messiah forever, will be our presiding king, and we'll rejoice in that time. You know, I've got with me now Elekha Stagg, and she has been a part of this congregation here in Palm Springs, and she has done an interesting thing. And I want her to talk to you about it, and I want her to share some things from this work that she's done. Elekha, talk to me.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for having me, Rabbi. I appreciate you. I appreciate my Cohen. And I'm excited that you had him to be a part of this. I was, basically talking about, transition, and the shock of understanding that everything that I had known, was not, as it seemed. So, because of that, and because of needing something to help to keep me grounded, or help to keep me searching so that I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Because when I heard all about Hebrew and the J, there was no J until, it was a real shock to me.
Oh, we took the J out of the language?
The J was out of the language.
It's gone.
And I was like, what do you mean? And you have to understand that. So it was such a shock to me. It was like, wait, hold up. Everything that I believe now is being challenged.
Yeah.
Okay. And so.
And this is where everybody is. You see, if you've been told a lie for so long and that lie is being challenged.
Yes.
It works on your mind. You go, well, wait a minute. Yes. All these years I've heard this, and now I'm hearing this.
Yes.
And the question becomes one like, well, how come this person is the only person? I'm not the only person that knows this. I may be the only person that is as vocal and outspoken and loud about it because I want my people to wake up and know.
Yes. I mean, yes, because this was something that was hard for me, and just to know that whole transition, even in my teaching, I teach in the public schools as well. One of the things we're teaching about now is called chance and error. And the way I define that and the way we look at it is that information that you receive, at some point, there's a chance there might be an error in it.
Wow.
And because of that, then we need to do our research. And as we see new things come,
wait a minute,
then we make adjustments.
Wait. We got to repeat that. We got to go back and get that. We got to go back and get that.
Yes.
In order to understand where we're coming from and gravitating to truth, you've just given me something to add to my repertoire of mottos. Chance and error.
Yes.
If there's a chance,
yes,
there's a chance there might be an error.
Yes.
If there's a chance that there is more than likely truth. But you have to delve, you have to take the time to delve into the minutia of stuff and uncover the truth. Go ahead.
Yes. And so in that search, we have to search, and we, just on that alone, the timeline changed on everything. And when I look at my understanding, so that information, I'm going to add more information on that, things are going to change. And there was so much information coming to me that was different than what I already had.
Right.
I was like, wait, I need to write this down. And people know me. I'm a writer. I write down everything. I'm sitting up here with tablets and stuff, pens. It's what I do. And so I start writing and I'm writing this. I said, okay, I need to know about this. I need to know, where did this come from? How did this get there? Why is there no letter J? Where did that come from? And doing the research, I did an outline, and that's how I got the book that I wrote.
Tell us about the book. Tell us about the book.
The book is called Embracing the Way of the Most High. The way I remember it is The Way. Walking in the Way of Torah.
Great book. Now listen, class. Embracing the Way of the Most High, Walking in the Way of Torah by Elekha Stagg Hunter. This is a book. She's going to tell you about it, and she's going to tell you how you can get your hands on a copy of this book. You need to have this. You need to have this.
Yes, thank you. So the book was written to help keep me in line, if you will. And I'm saying that just to say that give me that structure so that I know that, okay, because I there was so much that was already in me, in my brain, in my heart. I was teaching pastors and leaders this stuff. I was.
I know.
And then I was even on the side of Catholicism and knowing that Christianity came from Catholicism. I was so close, but so far.
Yeah.
Chance and error.
Yeah.
There were things that were left out.
Yeah.
Okay. And then coming here and then hearing more of what the scripture really is. And it helped me to see that there's some things that didn't come to me correctly.
Right.
There's some things that I have to research, that I have to let go of. And, you have mentioned it, before, where this is something that I've had for a long time. This is something that I've lived with. And so I needed to have something that I could continue to go to say, okay, remember this. Remember we went over this. Remember, this is where this happened. And I did the book as sort of like an outline for me to go by. And it came out as a type of workbook.
Okay. So this is a workbook.
It's a workbook.
So you can get this book.
Yes.
And this is a workbook that will help you to understand embracing the way of the Most High. Go ahead.
Yes. And we're looking at how to begin to embrace the way of the Most High.
Okay.
How to find a congregation that is us teaching the ways of the Most High.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dealing with community in that congregation, because we know if you're with someone in a congregation, you're going to be like that congregation.
Right.
You're going to be like those people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mitzvots came up, and it's like, wait, they're telling us how to do things. They're telling us how to interact with each other. They're telling us how to interact with the Most High. They're telling us how to live. And it's like, okay, I need to remind myself that, okay, I need to go to the mitzvahs and continue to look at them. So I do not have an exhaustive list of the mitzvahs. No, just a reminder that we need to go to the mitzvahs, that we need to follow that we need to stay with Torah, that we need to be with our own congregation and our own community, our own nation, so that we can grow and be in the place where the Most High wants us to be for those blessings that He has for us, so that we can walk into that land.
Fantastic.
And I was just like, wow, I can't believe that all of this that I've remembered, that I've taught, that I've heard, is incorrect. We go back to chance and error.
Yeah.
So now this is a part of my structuring my new information, so that I know that I'm on the right track.
This is fantastic.
I know that I'm understanding.
This is fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much for sharing with us. Now tell our people where they can get this book. How can they get this book?
Okay. Right now I'm on lulu.com. That's
lulu.com.
That's LULU.com.
LULU.com.
Yes. And if you go in there, just put that in, go to bookstore and type in, put in the way of the Most High.
Okay.
And it'll come up there.
And you can purchase it there.
And you can purchase it there.
Okay. Thank you so much. I am so happy for you. I'm so happy for those of you that have made this transition, because this is the rest of your life. This way will guarantee your entrance into the millennial age, the messianic era, and out of it into the 8th day, where the Most High said He's going to bring 1/3 of us through the fire. The goal is to make the 1/3.
Yes.
So thank you so much. Now I'm going to use a Christian terminology because I want to have fun here. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. The Kohanim says, I'm going to do it. We have the first lady. We have the queen of this opulent dynasty here in Palm Springs, Valencia, who's going to share with us a few minutes here while we still have some time. We want to hear from her. We don't use the terminology first ladies, and we don't use the terminology bishop, and we don't use the terminology elder, and we don't use all those terminologies that are so affluent within Christianity because they're not a part of the governance of our dynasty that we're a part of. The Most High has Kohanim, he has Leviim. He has Kohanim and he has Levium. And he has high Kohanim, high priest. And that's not after the order of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church stole that from us. So we are an opulent nation. And Abraham had a queen. And Abraham, if we're going to have a bishop, if we were going to have a bishop over this Hebrew nation, it would be Abraham. And he had an awesome queen. Her name was Sarah. So we have queens and
Yes.
we're kings. And
Yes.
We're those kind of people. Valencia, talk to me.
Well,
Talk to the people out there. Talk to me. What?
Well, I'm excited to be a part of this podcast. As you were speaking of how we reference ourselves, I did share with my husband that I refer to myself as that Hebrew woman. That's how I refer to myself. And so it's just it's exciting in knowing who I am.
Oh yeah.
Very excited. And I that's my conversation.
Yeah.
I love to speak of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I was speaking about knowing who I am, I really focus on identity. When we first began to really study the scripture, we spoke of identity and timeline. And so I'm glad to know who I am in reference of the scripture. Because a lot of times we read these scriptures and as we were speaking or sharing earlier, doing away or, just forgetting about, not really applying, the foundational scriptures is, why are we speaking of that? Why have we been given that? Knowing that the foundation is very, very important. And so knowing who I am, that's what I'm most excited about in reference to the scripture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's good to see you. Good to know you.
Yes.
Good to know that the Kohanim here in this house has a queen that's standing beside him, helping him to bring forth this wonderful message that's a part of Hebrew Israel. I lost my queen. I miss her very, very much, but her spirit continues to keep me abreast and keep me on the right track. Glad to have you.
Yes.
I'm glad the people could hear your voice.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Now we're going to talk to the worship leader here in this particular house. And her name is Hope. It's interesting. When I go back to thinking about your children here and having once again listened to this Netflix sitcom that I listened to all the way through, there was the worship leader's name was Charity. And the daughter who had died that starts the sitcom, her name was Hope. But this Hope is very much alive, and
Wow.
she really something else. Talk to me, Hope. Talk to me. Talk to the people. What is it? What has affected your life most about this Hebraic way that you have entered? Now, I want you to know something about her. She is an educator. The family here are educators. She is a teacher at the high school, and she is also a coach of the volleyball team there. She's very, very into it. So she's not sitting on the sideline, but talk to me.
Hey, Rabbi.
Hey, Hope, what's up?
Hey, nothing much. And hey, people listening out there, you told me to talk to the people too.
Yeah, yeah. You're not just talking to me. You're talking to our podcast family. So go tell us about it. Come on, what's going on with you and the Hebrew way?
Me and the Hebrew way. It was quite interesting to start the transition because in school, my siblings and I, some of us, we took Latin in school. So in Latin, and then other subjects, we learned about different things. And one of the things is that there was no J in the Latin alphabet. You know, there was no Julius Caesar. It was Julius Caesar with an I. So when a long time ago, when we were still classifying ourselves as apostolic, we would have dialogue and discussions in our Wednesday night Bible class services. And as we're doing homework, we're, going back and forth, having a dialogue like, oh, I learned that in Latin. It's this, this, and this. So once we started to have the transition, it wasn't difficult for me to have that because I had already learned certain things from like history or in school. So for me, it just made more sense. Like, oh, okay. Like I know that. I learned that. Like this is easier to go by. It's either this or that. There's no in between, and in Christianity, it was always like, oh, well, you can do this or you can do that, or, well, you did that. Well, that's okay. Like that's all forgiven and you could do everything all over again and still be forgiven. So it's like, what can we actually do and what can we not do? Everything was just up in the air, up for grabs. You could do whatever you want. So when we came into the truth, it was simple. Here's what you can do. Stay away from this.
Right.
It's a path. Walk on this path. It's clear.
It became a way of life for you.
Exactly.
Not a religion anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was quite simple for me, and I love it.
Well, good.
Yeah.
So that's Hope. I know she has a whole lot more to say, but I want to thank you, Hope, for joining with us today, and for Levon and Valencia and Kohanim Stagg. I'm happy that you have joined with us today in this particular podcast and
all these beautiful
been able
people
to share the things that I know that a lot of you out there are still struggling with, and that's the transition from where you are to where you're going to be. We're bringing Mama Staggs up.
Now she over there shaking her head like, what in the world is wrong with y'all?
Okay.
I ain't trying to. Okay. You gonna come up there? All right.
Can Mama Stagg get up here? We're gonna bring into you just for a few words the what is it? Not the matriarch, the
matriarch.
Yeah, I'm the matriarch here of the congregation here in Palm Springs, and she's got her walker. She's going to try to get up here and say just a few words to you, because I need for you to hear the fact that it's not just young people or not just, people of all ages are gravitating to this way that is called the Hebraic way of walking. Her name is Lula.
Yeah.
Mama Lula Stagg. What you got to say to us, Mama Lula Stagg?
Well, just a few words.
Oh, come on. Talk to us.
When I heard about it, I was coming to church. I had been apostolic for I don't know how many years, but I was way in it. I didn't miss nothing. I said I gave all of my good time when I could jump around and cut up and act crazy.
There you go.
I gave it to the wrong one. I didn't realize until afterwards. And I say, well, when Lee and them, I said, they must be crazy. They done forgot about the other man. I said, now that's anything else, I might go along with them. but I just can't believe this. Then here come a rabbit book. I started reading. I say, look at this here. I've been reading this all this time, and I didn't even pay no attention to it. I say, y'all said nobody shouldn't eat no blood. And yet it said, this is my body. Take ye, eat, drink ye. This. I said, what in the world is this? I've been doing all these years. I'm thinking I'm doing right, you know? I said, this ain't right. I say, what? I had to think a while. I say, well, you know what? I say, if Lekha and Pookie believe in it, I say, I'm going to believe in it too.
If Elekha and who?
Lekha and Pookie.
Lekha and Pookie. Lekha and Pookie. Lekha and Pookie. That's all right. Now we know. Now we know who Pookie is.
I'm going to believe in it too. I say, because they were so far in then apostolic. I say, if ain't nobody was, they was. I say, and if they get away from it, I can too.
There you go.
So I say, I'm going to try it and I'm going to see. I started going and reading stuff and listening, and I said, now I'm going the right way.
There you go.
I was praying, I say, teach us the way, yeah. Send somebody to teach us some mitzvots that we can learn and live by and go do what you want. And here come Rabbi with the mitzvah. I say, look at that, yeah.
Look at ya.
I'm saying, that's just what I need. I'm going to send my sister one soon as I get it too. And that's all I got to say.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So, thank you, sir, very much.
What she didn't tell you is she bought 6 of your books.
She bought 6 of the books.
And she sent them to all her sisters and friends.
Wow.
Also, another thing is she didn't tell you that she's a very avid reader.
Uh-huh.
And she's read the quote unquote Bible about 8 times.
Wow.
So when she heard us teaching this and you teaching, it was easier to receive.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank Corneem Stagg and
esteemed ambassador.
Ambassador. Oh, excuse me, sir.
Our ambassador here in Palm
Springs, and his sister Levon and his wife Valencia and his daughter, and those of you. I want to thank you so much for contributing to our opulent podcast. Mm-hmm. This has been Rabbi Robert B. Holman Jr. and
Sean Appleton.
And this has been Hebrews in Exile. Shalom.